Welcome back to Likras. We're working on Parshas Tzav, the second parsha in Chumash Vayikra. Working on one verse, part of a verse. The second verse in Parshas Tzav. The Torah says, "Zos Torah Olah Olah Mokta al Mizbeach Kol Alei Boker." This is the law of a korban Olah. Olah is a particular type of sacrifice that nobody eats any of the meat. Hiya Olah, Torah repeats a little bit. This is the Olah al Mokta, on the fire, al Mizbeach, on the altar, the whole night until the morning. So, the pasuk seems pretty straightforward. No particular questions. The one question we have is, what's its relevance to us? We don't have the temple anymore. We don't have the Mishkan that they had in the wilderness. So we don't have a Korban Olah. So this is laws that have nothing to do with us. This very much bothers the Hasidic masters. We're going to look, as we always do, on Maor Vashemesh. Check out the Maor Vashemesh here on this parsha and see what he does with this verse, this bit of the verse which we learned just now. So he works with the concept of Rashi Tevis. He says, look at the first letters of all those words that we had. Zos teres oli Olah mokta al mizbeach kol alei boker. And he says, Olin Kaminyan HaShabbos. It comes out the same gematria, just the first letters of all those words, as the word HaShabbos. Shabbos is many times with a Hey Yedian Torah, HaShabbos. So first, have to check it out. We cannot rely on the Rebbe that the gematria works. I'm not clever enough to just give a look and figure it out. So let's check word by word. Zos, we start with a Zayin, is 7. Teres, well, the Tuf we don't have to do because in HaShabbos it has a Tuf. So we'll leave out the Tuf, and we'll leave out the Tuf in HaShabbos. Ha-Olah, so there's a Hey. We can leave out the Hey because there's a Hey in HaShabbos also. We're left with Shin Beis on the Shabbos side, which is obviously 302. So far we only have a Zayin 7 in this pasuk. He is another Hey, we're up to 12. Ha-Olah is another 5, we're up to 17. Al is 70, we were up to 17 plus 70 is 87. Mokta is another 40, we're at 127. Al is another Ayin, 70, so that brings us up to 197. Ha-Mizbeach brings us up to 202. Kol Halayla, Kol is 222. Hey from Halayla is 227. Ad is another 70, is 297. And the last we're doing, Haboker is another Hey, exactly 302. Exactly what we have in HaShabbos side, because we knocked off the Hey and the Tuf because we're Hey and Tuf on this side. We're left with Shin and Beis, which is 302. It works out exactly. That this verse in Gematria, the Rashi Tevis, the first letters of this verse hint to the idea of HaShabbos, of Shabbos. What's the connection? Now, we do have Shabbos, so what's the connection? So first, as always, Shabbos, we have to mention the basics. Shabbos is to remember that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. World is created by God. And 2 is the Exodus of Egypt. Shabbos commemorates the Exodus of Egypt, so we have these 2 basic ideas, 2 very spiritual ideas, 2 ideas that have nothing to do with the physical world we live in per se, on the regular way the world works. Meaning, God wasn't forced to create the world. If you look at the world spiritually that God created, it's a gift from God. It's chesed. It's totally spiritual gift. And taking the Jews out of Egypt, the Exodus itself was a miracle, was from God, a gift. It didn't have to be that way. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. So both of these ideas, Shabbos is the spiritual side of the world. That's what Shabbos is about. Now, this korban, this sacrifice of the Olah somehow is connected to Shabbos. We have to understand the connection. So now the Maor Vashemesh is going to explain. V'romeis k'mo she'omer l'mayla gam ken al pi ha'ma'amarim, Gemara in Shabbos daf kuf yud ches says, Shekol meshamber Shabbos kilchoso, whoever keeps Shabbos according to the laws, the halachas, afilo oved avodah zarah kador enish. Even if the same person who does keep Shabbos correctly also on the side does sin, a terrible sin. He does avodah zarah kador enish. Enish was the first generation. He's there in Chumash Bereshis, and they're doing avodah zarah. The Rambam speaks about that. So we have this fellow who's keeping Shabbos all correctly according to halacha. He's relating to that spiritual side of God running the world, and on the side he does some avodah zarah. He sins with the terrible sin of avodah zarah, like the dor enish. What happens? Mochlin lo. He gets a mechila. his Shabbos, his Shmir Shabbos grants him forgiveness for his terrible sins. So too, Chazal teach us that if Klal Yisrael had kept 2 Shabbos perfectly, which they didn't, if you remember in the story with the man earlier, we had in Chumash Shmos that in Beshalach, they're Mechal Shabbos. They put out on Shabbos some of the man they weren't allowed to. If Klal Yisrael had kept 2 Shabbos perfectly, immediately they would reach the level of Geula, a level we have not yet reached. So it comes out Shabbos Mechaper Ala Maisa. So it comes out Shabbos, which is not working, comes out that it brings a mechila, it brings kapara. Kapara, Rashi says, al-Torah means erasing. It brings an erasing of the sin of action, avodah zarah, in our discussion. Okay, so that's the idea of Shabbos. So this is this idea here we have in the parsha, that Shabbos and the Korban Olah both have the same gematria. Shabbos, like Karbanis are meant to bring kapara, erase sin. Now, Karbanis are meant to be erasing an accidental sin. That's emphasized many times in Karbanis. Shabbos comes out, it's a little bit stronger, and Shabbos can even intentional sin of Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah is almost always intentional sin. That's what Avodah Zarah is about. So that's what we find. So it comes out that we have this fire that we're connected to here. Eish shel mizbeach is a mitzvah to burn it. On Shabbos is the opposite. Torah says, don't burn, don't start a new fire on Shabbos. So we have two opposites. We have fire in both directions. Shabbos is cessation from work, which our person, even if he does Avodah Zarah, recognizes and keeps the Shabbos k'halacha. And Shabbos, we're not allowed to burn fire. Mizbeach is fire. That's what it's all about. The word mokta means a fire in this pasuk. And the eish is a fire burning. So we have one fire, yes, versus one fire, no. Both are doing the same thing. Both are bringing out kapara. And Shabbos has an extra. It's more hidden. It's less obvious. So therefore, we find that the Korbanis have a remez, have Rashi Tevis to Shabbos. The word of Shabbos is not in the Torah here. It's hinted. So it shows us that the Shabbos, the hinted side, is the more spiritual and more power. It brings out kapara. So when we learn the parsha about kapara of an Olah, that when there's Beis HaMikdash and a person brings an Olah, he gets a level of kapara. And every year, even now, even without Beis HaMikdash, when he keeps Shabbos correctly, he gets a greater kapara. He's more connected to the spiritual side of the world, and he has more ability to connect to Hashem. And even if he does sins, they can be erased by the power of Shabbos.